Hi, all. Good morning. Rapidly changing and advancing technology, compliance, business requirements necessitate the need of regular trainings, upskilling, and cross skillings. The contribution of learning and development in any individual's as well as an organization's journey is immense. Then there are important topics like talent development, DEI, POSH, CSR, which are equally important for any organization or a leader or individual working there to know about them. So, in today's episode, we will get to know about these topics and their insights, such as there's huge diversity gap in India with female comprising only around 30% of the total labor workforce. Only 65% of the companies do regular post trainings in India. 25,000 crore rupees has spent on CSR activities in India, and there's still a lot more to do. So we'll talk about these topics and also the various practices which are still being carried out in the hinterland of India, far off from the cities, in the villages, in the tribal areas, and what all the different CSR activities are trying to bring these people and connect them to the mainstream. We'll also talk about Kashmir and Northeast. So in today's episode, we have Ms. Namrata Waklu, who is a senior industry leader in HR. So let's hear from her. Namrata is also known as Srinagar Girl on the various social media handle, and she is doing an excellent work in bringing Kashmir closer to the people of rest of the India. So let's check out this episode. Thank you.
Hi,
Welcome,
Sandeep.
welcome to the Zinc podcast series.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a
Thank you,
pleasure
Namrata.
to be here and to meet you again virtually after so many years.
So many years. Yeah. So thanks, Namrata. So let me just give you a quick brief or the context of this podcast series. So I have termed it as Zinc, zooming in youth
Mhm.
networking and careers. The objective behind this podcast series is to connect the professionals like you or professional leaders like you to the youth coming from the small towns and villages, tier three, tier four kind of thing, right? Because I have been going there as a guest lecturer or sharing my views there. When I go there, I see a lot of gap in terms of knowledge and infrastructure as well. But at least I thought that at least we can bridge the knowledge gap immediately in our individual capacities. So apart from the
Sure.
guest lecture, I thought why not to connect this audience through the podcast, through the knowledge of the professionals or the leaders which I know of. So
Great.
one of the topic is definitely on the learning and development, and I
That's
could not
good.
think of a better person apart from you to start
Thank
my
you.
discussion on this topic, right? So during this conversation, Namrata, I will be talking to you on learning and development, DEI, CSR, POSH, all these topics you have been leading all through, right? And you're a multifaceted professional wearing multiple hats. So we will also touch upon your other aspects, which you cover in, for example, social media, the Srinagar girl, the second part of it,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yes.
So, Namrata, to start with, let's give
Sure.
a glimpse of your journey, how you have really from the valley of Kashmir to the corporate world of learning and development, the HR, how the transition has been.
Yeah. It's been a very long journey, Sandeep. Like you
Yeah,
said, from the Valley of Kashmir. So I am a small town girl.
yeah,
I was a small town girl, and it was around, I think, 95 or so that I came to Delhi after my education. My education, I completed my schooling in Srinagar, but for my college, I went to Pune. So I did my engineering and my MBA from Pune University. Thereafter, I came to Delhi and I have been around Delhi NCR since then. And I started my career around 1996 as head of operations, customer service operations for an IT firm. And thereafter, I made a move because then the family started growing and I had to kind of, maintain a work life balance. So I switched from operations into learning and development and other related HR roles. So a large part of my career after this IT firm has been with the telecom. I was with Reliance, which was the ATAG at that point of time. Anil Ambani Group,
Yeah.
Mukesh
Yeah.
Ambani Group. Initially, when they came out with
Yeah.
CDMA phones, if you
CDMA.
remember,
Yeah.
Dhirubhai Ambani scheme and all that.
Yeah.
That was when those little CDMA phones came.
Yeah.
At that point of time, I joined the learning and development team of Reliance, which was NIS Sparta. And that's where I basically learned the ropes of training. So we had to actually do stand-up delivery for X number of hours every month. And it was all technical.
Yeah.
Product knowledge, process, the different skills that the employees need to acquire, whether in sales or customer service, when they're interacting with the customers. So the journey started from there. And then I moved on to Airtel after that. Again, the domain remained same, but different aspects got added. I started venturing into leadership development,
Yeah.
more of soft skills also. Then training of the back end roles also. Normally people focus only on the front end role, sales and customer service, or the top leadership. But here, I now started working with the back-end teams also. Like there are legal teams in telecom, there are commercial, supply chain. There is so much compliance is at the back end. And very rarely do organizations pay attention to their development.
Yeah.
So, but then that started getting added to my profile. From Airtel, I moved on to Aircel, which was again new. It was a small, South-based organization, which had then become pan-India in 2008 is when I joined them. And they had a huge Aircel Academy, a very impressive one. And that academy had different colleges, we used to call them. So they used to be different verticals, basically. College of Sales, College of Customer Service, College of Technology, likewise. So I headed two colleges over there, two verticals, which are again College of Leadership and College of Professional Support Services. So the professional support services are the back-end services, the back-end teams in an organization. So that's how things started kind of, growing in, domain, the width also, along with the depth
Yeah.
of the training. And it was here that I first got introduced to POSH, which it was not the act POSH, the recent act had not come until 2013, but
Oh.
we were still handling cases under the, other, what are the principles that we have. I'm just, So it was in Aircel when I first got introduced to POSH, which was not in its current form. The current act of POSH came only in December 2013. But we had Vishaka Commission and other guidelines in HR, which we used to use to deal with any kind of sexual harassment cases.
Right.
And so that's how that bit got added. I also started handling CSR for HR over there. Although there was a separate CSR team there, but in HR, we had one small vertical, one small project, which was about, corporate social responsibility. We were taking care of learning and development of those students which come from tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Okay.
Basically, we had tied up with Harvard, and Harvard was they had designed a small, not small, but you say a mini MBA. And we kind of tied up with them to provide education to tier 2 and tier 3 students through that project. So my job involved basically scanning the entire country, going to all these different tier 2, tier 3 colleges. We did a lot of group discussions. We did focus group discussions, interviews to kind of, pick students from these colleges and get them enrolled into this. This was a year-long program, and they were getting it free of cost. Although we were paying Harvard, of course, a huge sum of money for this, but it was coming free to these students who normally would not have access to a program from, Harvard. It's hard for anyone in a small town to think of enrolling into a program, into a management program, of that quality and that stature as it comes from Harvard.
Mm, mm.
So that is where the CSR bit also got added. And after Aircel, I went to Benetton, where United Colors of Benetton, and I spent a whole lot of time there. Basically, initially as the L&D head, and then I also started. Basically, it was a greenfield project for me. The CSR bit. There was no CSR in Benetton at that point of time, but our parent company in Italy, they used to do a lot of CSR sustainability work with UN and every these organizations. And that's when they thought that India, being the next big branch and, part of Benetton, should have something in CSR. So I was offered this role, and it was completely my choice whether I wanted to take up that challenging assignment because nothing existed in CSR. So I actually had to. I was happy to do it. I was happy to take up the challenge because I had done everything in L&D at that point until all these years. There was nothing new now that I really would have really driven me and motivated me now to stay in L&D only. Though I loved the bit and I continued doing that, but I accepted this challenge, and I set up the CSR department for Benetton. Basically, built up everything from the scratch, the processes, and what would our objectives be in CSR? What are the goals, the long-term, short-term goals we want to achieve through our CSR programs? The different NGOs and foundations that I would want Benetton to be associated with. So I spoke to them. I evaluated a whole lot of such organizations. We made very fruitful tie-ups and collaborations with these NGOs. Like we have CRY, we have Helpage India, we have many such organizations. And the main objective that was of women empowerment.
Okay.
So whether it was the girl child, whether it was a young woman, or it was the elderly woman, we took up that as our core CSR objective. And our flagship program at that point of time was the Nandhi Kali program, which we did with KC Mahindra Education Trust from Mumbai. So they were already running this very successful Nandhi Kali program, which is still going on. It's a huge program which runs across the country. So we tied up with them, and we kind of, you could say, adopted. We used to call them Benetton girls. They were these little girls from primary classes of government schools in Haryana and around Haryana and Noida. And the entire education of these girls became the responsibility of Benetton. Whether it was their uniforms, it was their books, it was any other, any facility that they needed in order to go to school. So we worked upon that project. So yes, and it was here basically when the CSR thing came. With it came another responsibility, which was of POSH. This was December 2013. Like I said, I was with Benetton then, and the new act of POSH came in then. And all organizations were it was mandated that every organization which had more than 10 employees ought to have an internal committee which would have at least 4 members in it. There would be a presiding officer, there has to be an external member, and that committee would take care of all the cases of sexual harassment that, if at all, any came. And any learning and development related to POSH, awareness. It was a very strict, I would say, law, and everybody was to ensure that this was happening in the office place, in the workplace. So that was again a new thing for me. I set up different teams. I made different POSH committees. One was at the head office in Gurgaon, where I was based. Then we had regional teams also. So taking care of their training needs, one of the employees to create awareness on POSH, then also create awareness of the team members of these internal committees who needed to know how to handle cases, what is to be done if, a case comes, how do we actually assess it, evaluate it, what is the investigation that needs to be done, what kind of redressals do we need to then give out to employees. So all that was important, and it took about 30% of my job then became, related to Posh because believe me, there are cases that happen across organizations from any level, from ground level to the very top level, you will have these challenges. And the more awareness we spread, the more the cases would, then kind of come. People have got that courage to speak up.
Yeah.
So once you're not aware, then there is a law that is kind of protecting you and that is strengthening you, empowering you. No woman would speak up. But once that awareness spread and they knew there is something that is taking care of such, needs of theirs, they started speaking up. So there were lots of cases that would come up. So redressal of those cases became very crucial then, and then you have to be very objective. So it is a very taxing job, I would say. It takes up a lot of, it's very stressful also, and time consuming also, because you need to have multiple meetings, you need to investigate in a very objective manner. So that's how it went with my career.
Wonderful.
From last year onwards, I am no longer associated with any corporate. I am on my own. I do independent consulting, mostly around Posh, DI, or even learning and development. If there are any, such projects which are of interest to me, I do take them up. Sometimes in an honorary capacity or otherwise. So that's
wonderful.
How the journey has
Such
been.
a long and inspiring journey from the Valley of Kashmir to the corporate corridors of NCR. And
Yeah.
definitely all the points which you have touched upon, Namrata, is quite relevant for everyone, and not only from the small tier students or the freshers coming up to the corporate level, but for the people who have been born and brought up in the cities and they're aspiring for the bigger roles in corporates. So just talking about more about L&D to start the conversation further. Now, since you started and now over the last 10 years, we have seen a lot of development happening online, right? Online trainings are available within L&D framework in the corporate, as well as there are many startups, many organizations which are providing the online trainings. So do you think that students coming from the smaller towns and cities can rely upon these external startup? There are many of them, right, which are providing the multiple trainings. So will that be sufficient for them, or they have to really look out for some other physical instructor-led training? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, initially, Sandeep, you would know, like when at least I started my career, when we spoke of learning and development or training, it was only about classroom training, majorly.
Correct.
You would get everybody into a class, organize everything, and it used to be so difficult, especially people from sales or operations. It's very difficult to pull them out and ask them to, take out 2 full days or 3 full days from their work and come and sit in the class, because they have their own challenges, their work suffers and all that. But that was that. But with time, we got tech savvy. So much has changed in this space of technology. Initially, mobile phones came, and then we have so much at our disposal. We have social media. We have a variety of LMSs, learning management systems. So I think every organization today that is tech savvy or that is interested in learning and development of their, employees would definitely have a robust LMS, which is important because we rely a lot on online training now. You cannot expect maybe about 10-20% of training happens in the classroom.
Physically,
The rest has to be reached to them at their location. An organization which is spread across a Benetton, if I take their example, we used to have about 700 doors or outlets across the country in different cities, different towns. How difficult is it to actually make sure that every person at the last mile is trained on a daily basis? Because, the product changes happen every second day. Something new comes up every second day. Telecom, we know how dynamic telecom is. Every morning you would find something new in the mailbox, and we had to ensure that thousands of our colleagues in the call centers or in the retail outlets are trained on that plan which has just come out, something new, some new product or a new handset. You can't expect to pull them all into a classroom and train
Correct.
them on that. So yeah, we started using LMSs a whole lot initially. We would assign, modules to employees and make sure that they spend time and go through. So that is basically self-learning. And every employee must have that responsibility that I am also responsible for my own learning. It's not just the HR or my L&D head whose responsibility it is to train me, but I'm
Right.
also, I own my own learning.
Yeah.
And now the best thing is that we have AI, which has come in. People are using, they've started using it, and it's become so, so very easy for us now to make sure that, we have our employees use that and avail the different, options that it gives for learning and development. Even your mobile phones, forget
That's it.
AI, like we have apps in the mobile
Yeah.
phones now where every morning you can just give a little knowledge nugget
Mm.
onto their mobile phones. If they're opening their stores or they're just sitting at their desk, they have some time in the morning, maybe 10-15 minutes. It doesn't have to be big modules. They have to be
No.
bite-sized.
Right.
Attention span is so little these days. You can't have
Yeah.
this 10 hours. But if it's bite-sized modules pushed onto their mobile phones or their laptops, first thing they read that quickly and they begin their day.
That gets stuck to
So
the mind. Yeah. So
yeah, and even tests, exams, we're asking about these students or, potential who are looking at some kind of a job or some, courses that they want to do. So they can take tests online. They don't really have to go someplace.
Correct.
There are many proctored tests or otherwise we have self-assessments which they can take safely from their homes on their laptops or mobile phones.
Yeah.
So yes, I would say 70% of our learning and training or testing happens online these days through
Right.
technology.
Right.
So it's good for them, for
Yeah.
those people who live in the far-flung areas and don't
Yeah.
have the same access to
Facilities.
technology, like we in the cities have.
Mm. So, Naval, you talked about the academies or the MBAs and Aircel or Reliance, right? And where you
Yeah.
had the opportunity to speak to the students from tier 2, tier 3, or
Aircel,
maybe
that
smaller
was
towns and
it.
cities. So, what has
Yeah.
been your experience? What kind of knowledge gap you used to see in those kind of things? And what do you think after a decade or so, does the same knowledge gap still persist with the similar set? Because my aim is to really the aim of this podcast series is the same target audience.
Yeah. Yeah. So, these youngsters in tier 2 or tier 3 cities, they, they know a lot. They're brilliant, some of them. They
Yeah,
have that zeal in that they
zero.
want to achieve something that they don't have. They're very aspirational. Most of them that we met, and they really want to outdo, and perform and give it their best shot. The challenge is basically I have seen is around communication. That is where we felt there was a gap. How to communicate, how the interpersonal skills or other communication skills. This was a challenging bit. Either they would not know English very well, and
Yeah,
most of the courses today, at least the ones that we were offering from Harvard, it made it mandatory for us to check that at least they have, a certain
that's it.
level of
Yeah,
proficiency in English.
yeah.
So that is changing. It's not the same
True,
like it
true.
was some 10-15 years ago, but there's still a gap. I come from Kashmir. I know many youngsters who approach me, for any kind of help to guide them, to mentor
Right,
them.
right.
Language is still an issue. Like currently, if you ask me, I'm the academic director for a program called Moj Kashir Sistership Program.
Oh, check.
Now, I'm the academic director. My job was to stitch a learning module for them, a 9-month long program, which covers everything. It covers basically their, communication skills, their personality development, realizing and finding their inner strengths. Then it also talks about your business skills, the technical skills. When you have your own startup, it's an entrepreneur, training program.
Okay,
We are developing women entrepreneurs.
okay.
So a large portion of the training is around entrepreneurship, how to acquire those skills, whether it's product development, whether it's finance related to your product, how to market it, what are the compliances or the basic, formalities that they need to know of when they are setting up their startup or any, organization, company of theirs. So there I found that English was a big challenge still. So then you have to
Yeah.
make sure that your module is in the vernacular language. So that is a challenge. I think that is the biggest challenge. I don't see any other major challenge if you compare a town, B grade town or tier 3 or 2 or tier 3 student or a woman or man to a metro. I think language skills
Language are important, but
are important. So they
Lang-
should focus on English from the very beginning. We might say, no, it doesn't matter. People can still do the same thing if they know Hindi or their regional
regional
language. But
languages.
I disagree. It's good to know your mother tongue. Of course, that's the first thing we all must know is our mother tongue. We must know Hindi or at least because majority of India speaks. उस पे भी आजकल काफी वो हो जाता है पॉलिटिक्स साउथ में व्हाई आर यू पुशिंग हिंदी I feel if you know the more number of languages, it's good for you.
It's always good, yeah.
It's
It is
always
not
good. So
about
Hindi
regional.
and vernacular, your own mother tongue, are definitely important, but English is equally important. We cannot say कि ऐसा नहीं होता है, English नहीं आती है तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Many people say it, but I've seen it. फर्क पड़ता है. People, when they come and they meet interviewers or other, customers, anyone, clients, it can become a barrier. Not knowing English can become a big barrier. So my advice would be to strengthen, hone your English speaking skills. Just about okay proficiency. They don't have to be experts. Just about reasonably good English.
Yeah, so
Otherwise, yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
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 I was just
I'm
sharing my experience speaking to these smaller towns youngsters. So some of them were really were able to catch the English skills very fast. But again, there were a lot of grammatical mistakes. And once they were coming to know of these kind of mistakes, and then they were getting conscious. And the confidence was getting lost, right? Oh, okay. And they were taking so much time to just correct the grammatical mistake. And then had to really be told, okay, you just start speaking or communicating with a small pace, with a less space, and then probably you will pick it up.
No, that should not matter, honestly. Even if the grammar or pronunciation is not perfect, we can't wait for that perfect thing.
Absolutely.
It will get perfected with time.
Absolutely.
But they should go ahead and speak. The more you use a language, the sooner you will get a grasp. You can, we all commit mistakes. It's not our mother tongue. It's a foreign tongue, foreign language. Just knowing it at a decent proficiency level, it in itself is a great thing to achieve. So I think उतना भी कर ले तो बहुत अच्छा है. But it is a challenge. I can tell you still, it is a challenge. हमने जब feedback भी ले रहा, we are at the close. I'm almost finished with that 9-month long program in Kashmir that I was talking of. December, maybe we'll do the graduation. So we were just doing a feedback round. We do in between every few months. We check, we do a dipstick. कि कितना समझ में आ रहा है लोगों को. Are they finding the program useful, the modules? So जो निकल के आया ना इसमें से was this only majorly. कि मैम आप उर्दू में या हिंदी में कर लेते तो हमें समझ में आता है. They're not able to do the written assignments.
Right.
We have a beautiful LMS. We have equipped it with everything. All they have to do is they have to type and upload it on the drive. So they're not able to do that because they can't write also very well English. So अब सब कुछ अगले program के लिए we are thinking of converting it into the regional language and all. So it is a challenge. I think that this is the only challenge that I find. Otherwise, they're equally good. There is no difference between a B town or an A town or a metro city child. So there is no difference.
So any other skill do you think is lacking or they should be focusing upon apart from the communication or the interpersonal skills? Any other soft skill?
I think your interpersonal skills, networking is very important.
Yeah.
We need to tell them that, when you network, your job becomes easier. You meet 5 people. If you start talking and you come out of your shell, start talking, interacting with people, you'll realize that someone or the other would be able to help you with something. and your job gets done faster.
uh,
So
uh,
it's very important to network. Today, a whole lot of things happen through networking. Now, these girls that I'm talking of, they all are the entrepreneurs. They're budding entrepreneurs. Say someone is making soaps, someone is doing something in embroidery, another girl has an app of her own,
okay.
a mobile app. So now what they were doing, they were finding amongst the whole group, it's a 18 or 20 member, 20 group of 20 girls. So there was a lot of synergy they were taking out amongst themselves only. So, okay, you can advertise your product on my app. I will take this from you. You can do marketing for me. So being this 20 ka group only, the networking that they started doing helped them. So just imagine if they now start networking outside with different groups, and whenever there are any programs happening, there's so much happening. So many workshops happen, especially in the startup area. So these girls or boys from the tier 2, tier 3 cities, they should always keep scanning and looking for such programs and try and attend them. And not all charge you. Some are free. Most of them are free. So go attend. If you are in a Meerut or you are in a Agra, I don't know. Then if you see something in Delhi, something nice is happening, go and attend. You will meet 10 different people. You will lose your shyness. You will lose your inhibitions. You will pick up something or the other from that program by interacting with people. People have already done that. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can easily copy paste with your own, tweaking to the whole idea. So networking and your communication skills, I think these two are very critical.
These are. So one more thing which I find is the presentation skills when the newcomers are coming, right? So that probably is also lacking, and they have to really get themselves trained and confident on the presentation skills, right?
So when you participate in these programs, what we do is we tell them every few weeks, we tell them, okay, prepare something on this and come and talk to us. Even in the final certification that we'll have in December, there is a 15-minute TED talk that they need to do.
Okay, wonderful.
On their project. They also need to submit a project report. They need to submit their workbook that they have been doing for the entire 9 months program. And they have to do a 15-20 minute presentation, TED style.
That will give a lot of confidence to them.
So that gives, doesn't matter if we have allowed it to be in Hindi or English or whichever, but they have to speak up. And you'll be amazed. We found some great talent. I mean, some of them speak so well, honestly. And Srinagar is not a big city. I mean, and it's gone through a lot of,
strife
what has happened. The strife. So to find young girls and boys speak so well with so much clarity of thought, it was amazing.
Great.
They can surprise you actually.
So I look at my career of 20-25 years when we used to look and talk to seniors when I started the career. We don't tell the stories. And now it is like, tell me the story and do the storytelling. Right. So how that transition has happened, and now when you are talking about this program in Kashmir, so do you talk about storytelling? Some of them, as you're saying, some girls are really brilliant. So they do the storytelling convincingly.
Absolutely. And storytelling is an art.
Yeah.
And we use it a lot. It's a great learning tool. It can give a lot of inspiration, motivation, and these youngsters, they want to tell their stories, and they also want to listen to stories, to inspirational stories. And people who can actually tell a story, it's an art. Not everybody can.
Exactly.
It's an art. And it's a great learning tool. And we all gave them opportunity not to just to listen to our stories कि हमने अपने 25 साल में ये किया वो किया, but we also made them feel that you are also equally important.
Yes.
Let's hear from you also. What is it that you have done? What are your challenges? We make them do interesting exercises. There's an exercise we recently did, which is called River of Life. अपनी पूरी life में look back and then see, draw it on a piece of paper. एक river की तरह आपको क्या क्या problems आए, where did those big boulders or some kind of a issue came in between which you handled, and where were things when it went smoothly and you progressed. So they all recounted, they all told their life stories in the form of a river. कि ये हुआ था, ये अच्छा हुआ, यहाँ पे problems आई, this is how I managed to
Wonderful concept.
overcome that problem. And so much came out. Everyone had a story and a very moving story. Then you
Yeah.
realize कि यार मेरे life में इतने दुख नहीं है. मेरे ही life में I feel
Yeah.
कि I am, I don't
Yeah.
have this, I don't have that. Everybody has.
Uh,
But ऐसा नहीं है. सबके
uh,
पास कोई ना कोई challenge रहा होता है. और वो सुन के then you become kind of okay. You are inspired.
right.
Everybody has issues. It is how bravely you encounter, you face those issues, you overcome those issues and reach where you have to reach. So storytelling is definitely a
Important also.
great thing to do. Yeah.
So, when you talk about DEI, right, diversity, equity, and inclusion, so tell us more about it. So, again, the people coming from the smaller town and say what they should look forward to it. Is it really impacting their careers or supporting their careers?
Yeah, I think it's still at a very nascent stage. Nascent se thoda better maybe. When I was in Benetton, we started working on these initiatives. Like it initially started with basically when we were hiring, simple things like let's hire more women.
Yeah.
That was one. So we would talk to HR. We would have some kind of a target we would give to HR, not only in Benetton, in other organizations also. Now they have these. If we are hiring 30 people, let 5 or 6, whatever their percentage, be women. But somehow or be physically challenged. Like, I don't know how, it was with Aircel. We were running a call center, I remember, in Odisha. And the Odisha team, they had a full call center of about 30, 40 employees who were all physically challenged.
Okay.
So they had all other capabilities. They could take calls, they could speak, they could converse well, they were intelligent people, educated people. All is that they were physically not mobile. So we gave them an opportunity. So I think it's a great thing to keep this in mind and try to go to those sections of society who do not have those opportunities. When we talk of equity, that is how it is.
Yeah.
If there are people who don't have those opportunities, and every organization these days, they are doing their best to try and, incorporate DEI in their, processes, in their policies, in their policies.
I was surprised
So
to read that in India, the gender diversity, for example, female participation in the workforce is still at around 30%, 35%.
Yeah.
That's still quite low, right?
Yeah, it is. Telecom has a good one. I think the best is in telecom. In retail also, we used to have good percentage. But again, sometimes while, trying to, maintain that and, adhere to the targets of DEI, we do wrong hiring also. That is something I would say HR needs to keep in mind that, if there is a boy and there is a girl who have come for an interview, both being equal, then you give preference to the girl.
Exactly.
So it should not be that people who are subpar or who do not have the competence, you cannot employ someone just because she's a girl. But if you have a guy, if you have a man who is talented, who has the competence, the right skills for that role, and you're rejecting him just because he's the guy, and you have to finish your target कि 5 लड़कियों को hire करना ही है. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि करना ही है तो आपने किसी को भी hire कर दिया. I've seen that also happens in many organizations.
Correct.
So that's not good. Just get the right candidate. Yes, if there is a preference you have to give, because we are wanting to give women a chance. And we must give women a chance. I have done so much work in this women empowerment. So I would always support that. But I would say let's not be unfair to the other gender also.
Absolutely.
Let's keep that also in mind, that we don't lose good talent there. And ultimately,
for
they
DEI
have to deliver at work.
Yeah, for DEI perspective, hiring is only one aspect of it. There's a lot of work which needs
just
to
one.
be done.
There is so much more that you can do to, like, again, Benetton comes to my mind. We used to have these fashion shows there. Every time we launch a new collection, we have a ramp walk by models. And earlier you used to get only, the best looking, the figure, because our clothes need to fit. They should wear only the small size. These models only the extra small and small. Not even medium size would come and walk the ramp. Forget But then later on, we said we'll have plus size models also.
Right.
We had in Benetton, it has always been different colors. You have seen our ads
Absolutely. Yeah.
also. We were
We
always different.
yeah.
Right from the 60s,
Correct. That used to the
the
branding of the
diversity angle and
Benetton
all
for that matter.
was there in our
Yeah.
campaigns also. So we started getting not just colored, so people from Northeast who look different from a regular Indian, people with dark complexion, then people who are plus sized women. I think that was the first time I had seen in my life plus sized women walked the ramp at Benetton. So I was happy. So we were trying to go and address, let's not body shame people
Right.
and let them not lose out on something just because they are plus sized.
Right.
So there is a lot that can be done in this space. Of course, it's not just hiring. It's about how you treat, even once they are within the organization also, how you are treating, how you're maintaining equity, how you are giving opportunities to people who, everybody needs to be given an opportunity, and some need more than others because they do not come from a privileged background.
Absolutely.
So when you talk equity, you have to see कि वो यहाँ पर है और कोई यहाँ है. आप दोनों को एक ही जैसा नहीं ट्रीट कर सकते. जो नीचे है उसको ज्यादा करना पड़ेगा so that both ultimately come at par. So I think it is happening, but still it's in the nascent stage. There's a lot more needs to be done. And it is happening. It is happening. Now you will see people are hiring DEI heads. There are so many people. There are departments called employee relations, where any kind of a complaint or any kind of an issue that an employee gets heard. ये सब पहले नहीं होता था. We never had employee relations as a department earlier on. We in one of my organizations, we had an HR head who was called the happiness officer. So his job, he said, don't call me an HR head. I'm the happiness officer. My job is to ensure that everybody, all kinds of people from all walks of life, they are happy. So, there is government of Delhi and I think Uttarakhand and some government in the Northeast, they are running these happiness programs also. For students, for school students. Of, again, the government schools, the kids. So how to kind of cheer them up, how to make them feel happy and liked. And feel them, make them feel that they're a part of the whole society, the big world out there. They're not different. So काफी कुछ हो रहा है इस space में.
You touched upon the Northeast people, and I feel when I look at the advertisements of our in India, although the advertisements are good, but I feel that somehow the representation of the people from the Northeast, our own fellow citizens from the Northeast, are not represented, and definitely they are. The advertisement of focus upon maybe on the majority of the population, North India, the Central India, or maybe when we go a bit south, that way. But I think some companies, some organizations should start taking initiative to bring those people in the main front as well.
Yeah, in fashion industry, there are quite a few. Again, थोड़ा language का वहाँ पे issue आ जाता है. Hindi ka. If you are wanting to hire, if you have a Delhi or a Mumbai kind of business, then you need to know Hindi. So again, वो Hindi challenge हो जाता है वहाँ पे. Even if you want to, आप नहीं कर पाते हो उनको hire because आपको थोड़ी सी proficiency basic languages में चाहिए होती है. So yeah, like I said, we should definitely look towards Northeast, and we should try and include. In Delhi, I have seen many companies, they have women and men from Northeast. And I guess you have a point. We can do more over there. We can definitely do more.
Similarly, from Kashmir, we have to really bring that part of India as well into the mainstream. And DEI probably would be really helpful in that matter.
Yes. Though I would say there are quite a few people, not women maybe, but there are a lot of men already working in different parts of the country. Being a little conservative society, so women normally do not move out of their homes a lot. But I'm sure that will change, and it is changing. I've seen Kashmir also transform so much in the last 10 years, if you see. A lot has changed, but it's still happens to
Well,
be a little
yeah.
conservative, so that will change. Really.
Okay. Great, great, great. So, Namta, you talked about Posh, your experience of setting up the things in Benetton specifically. So,
Yeah,
tell us a bit more about it. And again, you just gave that the new law came in 2013 with which mandated more
yeah,
companies with more than 10 employees should definitely have it. So, 10 employees means even the small MSME would
yes,
get qualified for that, right?
yes.
And these
Any
kind of mm,
any setup, whether it's
yes,
a private this thing, whether it's an LLC, whatever,
uh,
they need, if there are more than 10 employees, if they're all
mm,
men also, and you could
uh,
say that there is no woman तो harassment
yeah,
नहीं
yeah.
होगी तो क्या
Right,
जरूरत
right,
है,
right.
ऐसा
Right.
नहीं है, because harassment सिर्फ employees का नहीं हो सकता है. It
Uh,
could be
uh,
that you have a woman vendor or a
right.
woman customer walking in
Yeah.
and somebody is harassing her, one of these
Uh,
employees, then also it falls under Posh. So it's very important. But the thing is that Posh may, it's a minimum of 4 people.
uh,
The committee, the internal committee is
right,
important.
right.
And it should have a minimum of 4 people. Usme
Mm.
should be one presiding officer
Um,
that has to be a very senior lady. Not
uh,
very, but a senior lady, because you need
scenery.
a more mature person who can
Um,
look at things objectively. So it's
um,
important to have a senior lady from the organization as at the
um,
top, and
um,
50% of the entire quorum has to be women. So
okay.
अगर 4 लोग हैं तो उसमें से 2 तो women होने ही चाहिए, and then there should be a representation of men also. I feel you should not have only women,
Right,
because
right,
then
right.
the men feel a little kind of,
So this
believe
Posh,
me,
yeah, law is only for from the female perspective, or
yes.
it is both the genders or all the genders for that
As
for that matter.
of now, the Indian law is only for women, but
Okay.
many organizations, many MNCs especially, they have a
Uh,
gender neutral law.
gender neutral. Yeah.
They're saying, ठीक है, we'll adhere to the act, which the Indian law and all, that is good for women, but we'll have the same thing at their own level. It's not mandated by the government, but at their level,
Yeah.
they say that we would have the same law would be applicable to men also. So they have a gender neutral policy. Many Indian organizations also now have started
Okay.
kind of learning from this, and they've tried to replicate these policies, which is good, because
Yeah.
men do feel left out. I know when I take
Yeah.
these training sessions, the first thing, when I used to have a class full of, there would be maybe 10 girls and 15
Uh,
boys, and they all used to look so intimidated. Ma'am, this is only for
uh,
women. What will happen to us if somebody? And then they had those
those are
examples.
the point. Yeah.
कि
Yeah.
ऐसा हुआ था, who should we go to? That means we're gone. So that job insecurity, what will
Right.
happen to us? ये तो लड़की की ही बात सुनेंगे, हमें तो निकाल देंगे. It
uh,
happens,
yeah.
but these
Yeah.
things don't happen on an impulse. So you have to ensure them that no, there is a committee, a very mature, well-informed, well-trained committee that follows the natural laws of justice, that we have
Yeah.
to look at both the sides. We have 3 months to resolve the case. So
Okay.
there will be no worry. Today a
Um,
girl comes crying and you say, okay, she's right and the boy is wrong, and we must take action against the boy. So ये सब बताना पड़ता है. You have to make it very clear to them that no, you should not feel threatened. But best would be to have a gender neutral policy.
yeah.
In
Yeah.
today's times, that is required, because there are many cases which are of, when the men are getting harassed. So what we do tell them is that if we don't have a policy for men, the Posh policy, then we direct them to HR. They can go and still complain to HR, and HR must take whatever steps are necessary under the code of conduct. Because
Yeah.
every organization has a code of conduct that we all sign every year. And
Yeah.
if it's falling outside that code of conduct, the action is against that,
Action will
then
be
it can be
taken.
taken
Yeah.
action. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it should happen.
So when you talked about the gender neutrality, I just reminded upon the our LGBTQ websites. I see a very less representation. I'm not sure whether that is also getting addressed fully in the Posh as well.
Posh doesn't talk. The law
Okay.
doesn't talk of
Okay.
LGBTQ. Now it's kind of, they doesn't talk of that. So I think it depends on the committee, on the organization. Each organization will have its own way to handle such cases. But a lot of organizations, what they have now, when they have these forms also, I'm giving an example, the employment form, or we used to have just sex. Now you
Yeah.
have two things. You have a sex, you also have a gender.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sex is something that you were born with, the chromosomes that you
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
and whatever you were assigned at birth, he's a male or
Yeah.
female. Gender, they ask the employee that how do they identify themselves, or what do they identify themselves as? They can fill in that. What pronouns do they want to be used?
Yeah.
They can mention over there that though my sex is male,
Yeah.
because I have those chromosomes X, Y, or whatever, but I would prefer to be addressed as her,
Yeah.
she,
Yeah.
so and so. They are making it
Those
very
changes.
clear on the forms also. Okay, when you fill, we will address you the way.
Uh,
But again, it's not everywhere it's happening. People are discussing this a lot. I'm a part of
uh,
many forums of
okay.
DEI and POSH where these things get discussed. But honestly, it's a very gray area. It's a
Okay.
very gray area. It's very difficult also to handle. I think HR will find it very difficult. How to handle such cases if somebody he's born as his sex is male,
Yeah.
but he identifies as a female. Where do you put him then?
Right.
What policies would apply? For women, it's very clear cut. There is a maternity leave, there is this leave, there is a period leave, there is that. How do you handle those cases then? If somebody says, I identify as this, basically what he is something born with some other, specification.
Yeah. Yeah.
So थोड़ा सा वो हो जाता है
Yeah.
confused. So I do not have a lot of honestly experience इसके अंदर, तो मैं ज़्यादा बोल नहीं पाऊंगी इसके बारे में.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so Namza, now coming to CSR part, since you were on the thick and thin of thing in Benetton, and you really started with the greenfield sort of project they
Yeah.
establish the processes and all. Just take us through quickly what exactly the CSR and how the organizations are really contributing towards, and how this our audience, the small town uh, population or the youngsters can really contribute towards, or they feel that they are also part of it, might be.
So any profit-making company which is
Yeah.
making profit, basically they are eligible to shell out a percentage, 2% or something of their profits, and that has to go towards CSR. In Benetton, when there was no CSR department, what we used to do is we used to just write a check to the PM's fund. But when I took over and I started making a framework, and I said, no, we would want to use it wisely, because a lot of funds get accumulated in the PM's fund in terms, because it's easy for organizations. कि CSR का झंझट ही मत करो, just write a check in. You're done. तुम्हारा compliance भी हो गया और आपको कुछ करना, audits आ जाता है. You have to do so much. So I think it's important that every organization must take up some initiative under CSR.
Yeah.
Writing a check is easy, but that it doesn't. You have more responsibility than that. So whether it's working for the environment, whether it's working in the social sector, we need to kind of do something. There's a lot that can be done in these areas. So like I said, we primarily worked in both, even environment, because Benetton, we were into clothing. So basically we impacted the environment also, because we used dyes. When you are into clothing, when you are manufacturing something, you use a lot of dyes, chemicals, colors. Your fabric can be cotton, leather, wool, fur, so much. So many of these things were not falling under the sustainability, areas, positive sustainability. If you're using, for example, fur, it means you're killing some animal to make a fur coat. So those things we immediately struck off from our list. We took we took up this as a, resolution that we will not use pure leather. We will not use pure fur. So only for fur. So we would use that. And no leather. We'll not use pure leather, because we, don't want to harm this and that. There are many organizations which work in the different capacities. We said by 2025, we would reduce the usage of certain dyes and chemicals. There is a group, MRSL or SSA, that groups on different chemicals.
Okay.
And when you're washing your denins, for example,
Right.
a lot of these chemicals leach into your surroundings, into your environment, and it is impacting. So we took up that as target. You cannot do it immediately, because if you have to be sustainable, you can't kind of let things impact your business also. तो वो भी देखना है कि we don't want to shut shop, कि हम chemical भी use नहीं करेंगे, fur भी नहीं, leather भी नहीं, cotton भी सिर्फ organic होगा, और ये होगा वो होगा, then you will lose, you will not make profit. When we talk of sustainability, it has to add value to every stakeholder in the chain, right from the organization to the employees to the to the society around you. Everyone must benefit. So you have to be very careful. क्या चीजें हम कर सकते हैं बंद. So we used to meet every 3 months, and we used to discuss what is it that where are we improving, where is it that we need to do more. For example, organic cotton करें हम use, so then how does it impact? The prices would go up.
Right.
Everything, it impacts a lot of things. So you have to be careful. So you take small steps. So environment related, we used to do this. We used to take small targets that in the next 5 years, we would have cut down on these chemicals or these products. On the social front, we were very clear that we want to work in the women empowerment space. Like I said, we did lots. We did for youngsters, little girls, we did Nani Kali, which was an education program. And we used to sponsor right from their school bags and books. Everything used to be sponsored by us every year through KC Mahindra, through the NGO, not directly. Then for the middle-aged, we took menstrual health as one of our initiatives. That was again my own thought, because I was reading someday that, only 30% women in our country have access to good menstrual care.
Oh, still,
They
still
don't have even, So I was amazed when I went and I met some other organizations, NGOs, which work at the ground level, like Goonj and all. So I met and I understood that, women in the villages or small towns forget sanitary napkins. They use unhygienic fabric, which is used and which is reused and reused sometimes by the same two different members of the family also use the same thing. They wash and reuse between different women, or they use sand. They use leaves. If you go to tribal areas, it's not just Delhi and Mumbai. We see people using sanitary napkins. We use organic. We use all those sanitary napkins, also biodegradable and all that. But if you go to the hinterland, you go to Odisha, Bihar, see what the tribals are using there. Leaves, sand, they get infections, they get cancers, they suffer a lot. So that is when I read, I said, we must do something. So then that's when we started making sanitary napkins, again through an NGO in Bangalore. We tied up with them. We got these biodegradable sanitary napkins made, then again distributed through NGOs. So that was the middle-aged women we used to take care. We won several awards also, in fact,
wonderful.
for this project. It was called Arohi. The project was called Arohi. And then we had something for the senior women also through HelpAge India. So we used to get a lot of cataract surgeries done. We would set up camps. This was done with HelpAge, and HelpAge was working with very good, ophthalmologists and clinics that you have in the space, eye care space. And hundreds and thousands of women, we used to put up camps in all villages. We used to go, we were Gurgaon based, so we started with Gurgaon, the villages around Gurgaon, and then we would go to other states and other regions also. And all women over 60, 70, they would get tested, they would get free spectacles, they would get surgery done. So that was that. One unique project I would want to talk about was, there is this community called Bedia community in Madhya Pradesh and some areas around Madhya Pradesh. This was a project I was working along with CRY. So they were already working on this, and that's when we also stepped in. We said we would want to work in this space. So what the Bedia, it's a tribal community. There are small villages in MP which are only of Bedia community. So
Okay.
what they do is they are into communal prostitution. So
Oh,
it is not considered to be a bane or looked down upon. The prostitution is not looked down upon as a, what kind of an evil act is this? Or it's the women in the families actually they go into it. They are put into
okay.
it by the family members themselves. So once the girl attains puberty, her job, she knows that she has to go into this.
Oh, okay.
What the men in the family or would do is they would be like pimps, basically. They would organize everything for so very different kind of a society, a very different experience. When I went into these villages to see who are we wanting, because you have to go and see before
Right.
you commit to a
Yeah.
cause
Yeah.
that if we are donating our CSR funds towards someone, are they really eligible and do they really deserve that? So it is a very depressing image, at least for us.
Yeah.
They feel quite okay, but they used to earlier feel there is nothing wrong with it. It has been happening. अभी भी वो बोलते हैं कि तो सदियों से हो रहा है हमारे सोसाइटी में तो ऐसा ही होता है. But now they know that no,
It
it's
is not
not
good.
right. Our children. So our
We have
job
to
basically
change.
was to mentor these women, talk to these women. The woman is the matriarch, the head of the family. There are no men seen there because you don't know.
Okay.
There are just women in the family. Men are just wherever. So used to speak with them. We would tell them, you need to wean your kids, your children away from this job.
Yeah.
This is not an occupation that they should follow. ठीक है, ये होता आ रहा था. We have to be careful of their sensitivities also. If you tell them ये
Exactly.
गलत है, तुम क्या कर रहे थे, they
काफी
would
गलत
let you
प्रैक्टिस होती है
enter your.
so at some point of
कहेंगे
time
तो
some
हम हाँ आप
communities used to
निकल
use
जाओ
the
हमारे
thing, right?
आप यहाँ. So you have to talk to them subtly that enroll your child, your girls and boys both. So we used to then enroll them into classes. फिर उनको vocational program में डालते थे भोपाल में and other big towns in MP. वहां पे जाके then after the vocational training we would look for me as in CRY used to do that. All the job was done by CRY because they used to run the operations. They would then find jobs for them and get them, employed. I remember there were girls who became air hostesses or a teacher, from the same community. And then we would use that person who had attained something. आज वो एक officer बना है कहीं पर, तो उसको हम बुलाते थे. And he would address and tell his story to rest of the young boys and girls in the village कि देखो मैं भी यहीं से निकला था, मैंने यहाँ पे पढ़ाई की इनके साथ. I went to Bhopal, I undertook vocational training in this particular area, और आज मैं ये job कर रहा हूँ and I'm earning so much and it's a respectable kind of a job that I'm doing. So we use these role models to convert and convince people. And then many women would tell, we used to go their homes and they would say, नहीं मैम हमने तो ये काम किया, हमारी लाइफ तो अब हो गई. Now I'm 40. At 30, 35 only they would say our life is done. We are like gone. But we don't want our children. मैम मैं अपने बच्चों को नहीं इसमें डालना चाहती हूँ. मेरे बच्चे स्कूल जाते हैं, वो आगे कुछ करेंगे, वो ये नहीं करेंगे. Many women had become aware. But believe me, at 30, 35, they had already seen so much that they had given up on life. They said, that is it. Ab to ho gaya hamara. When in big cities and towns, life starts at 30. People start actually, they don't even marry until they're 30. So this was something which this project was very close to me also because we thought we were doing some very good work and trying to pull these girls out of this horrible situation that they were into and giving them a better life. So there's a lot that can be done in CSR,
That can be
whether
done.
it's environment related or it's the social
Related. So India is so vast and diverse, and every
Yeah.
time you talk to people like you, the leaders like you, we come to know about so much.
Yeah.
Probably we have not
Yeah.
thought about it, or we never
Yeah.
knew about the such practices
And so,
are still prevalent.
correct. And Sandeep, like I said, we were into manufacturing in Manitown. So even before we signed up with a vendor for manufacturing or any other work, embroidery hai, kuch we would have our internal audit team go and visit. They used to do social audits. It was mandatory. There was a global form compliance sheet that they had to follow. they would go and they would audit and they would see, are there enough toilets for women? Are there spaces for women where they can breastfeed their child? Is there a creche on the premises? If one of the things is missing, cross, we would not work with them because it's just not, Benetton would not work. So we were very careful. There was a fire which happened in Bangladesh. I don't know if you heard, this was a few years back. And Benetton was not even directly involved. We had outsourced the work to someone and they had further outsourced to someone in Bangladesh. There was a huge fire and that whole Rana Plaza building got fired, it fell apart. So hundreds of people died. And Benetton has been paying, I think even until now, through their nose for that as compensation, willingly. Although we were not directly involved in that, but still you feel responsible. You are a great
ownership is there.
organization. You have a reputation. You are a global organization. You have to then. Because
should
कपड़े
do.
तो Benetton के बन रहे हैं ना, वहाँ पे
Correct,
labels तो
correct.
Benetton की ही
Yes,
गिरी
it's
हुई
well
थी
done.
ना.
Correct.
और भी organizations की थी. It was not only, but
Uh,
we compensated. So you have to
yes.
be careful. You have to get those audits done, social
Um,
and environment related, to
um,
make sure that people are safe who are working. वो गरीब जरूर होते हैं, but their lives are equally precious. So we have
equally
to take
important.
care that these poor people coming from small towns again, and trying to earn a living, and then they should not be working in a hazardous kind of a space. That is important.
Right. There's a country like India where about 30% is only the percentage for the women workforce. If we really have
Yeah,
to progress, all these
yeah,
elements, all these topics are really important to progress further.
very, very
Very,
important.
very important.
Yeah, and people are doing. A lot
Um,
of awareness has come into organizations that women empowerment is important. They need to be heard. They should they should have a voice. The glass ceiling that we talk of, it
yeah.
is slowly kind of changing, though a lot needs to be done still. So, but yeah,
Absolutely.
we are on our
Upcoming
way.
decades look forward for India's growth and development. I believe definitely all of us should contribute in a meaningful
Yeah,
way, whatever way we can do, definitely.
correct, correct.
Great, Namrata. Now coming to the second part of this, which is your social media presence, where we know you as a Srinagar girl, right?
Yeah,
So
that's my
tell us
handle.
more about that. You have been doing literally a great job by bringing Kashmir closer to the rest of India.
Yeah, first of all, my kids laugh at this handle. They said, Srinagar girl, are you a girl? But in my heart, I would always be Srinagar something.
Yeah.
Not a girl, but from Srinagar.
Oh,
I think it's just that it's the love that I have for my birthplace, for my motherland, which I try to somehow, bring to the people across the country who don't know Kashmir. अभी तो social media काफी हो गया है open up. Now you get to see a lot about Kashmir. But when that Facebook had initially started, I started talking
2008 something.
about Kashmir. Since then, I started visiting. So Kashmir, I have grown up there, but due to the strife, terrorism, and everything during those days, we all left Kashmir. So in 2001, my family moved out of Kashmir. So I couldn't go back because those were difficult times. We sold everything. There was nothing to go back to. It was only in 2011 that I got an opportunity when I was with Aircel. I had to go every few months for training and development and other stuff. That's when I started going. So 2011 onwards, then it happened, like it became a regular thing. I started going and clicking pictures. I love clicking pictures. I love blogging. So that's how it started. It slowly became that I used to click a lot of pictures, share it on the social media. Then people would say, why don't you kind of talk about it? So I started blogging, writing about my trips, my visits, not just the regular Kashmir thing, but the offbeat places, our cultural practices, our history, where we came from, how Kashmir has changed over the centuries. Because it's in the middle of a very, it's a very strategic location. You have China, Tibet, Afghanistan, Central Asia is so close. So it is surrounded by all these countries. So how that has impacted Kashmir, all that I thought we must let the mainland
That's
India
an
also know. That's why I started writing about it. Then I also compiled it in the form of a book very recently.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I had made pictures, why not make something on a topic? So I made a coffee table book on
Yeah.
ancient Kashmir, temples of ancient Kashmir.
temples.
Yeah, which got a very good response. People didn't know, many Kashmiris themselves didn't know that there are temples that old, 13, 1400 years old, or Hindu temples existed in Kashmir. People
Right.
were not aware. So it got a fantastic response, and I'm glad. So, yeah, it's just my area of interest, and it will
Oh, it
continue
is
going.
excellent initiative and excellent area of interest as well. So in my, I also keep on following you, not from now, but when we were working together in Airtel,
Yeah.
right? So your
You
whenever
remember
you're
the photography club we used to have? I
exactly.
think that was also
Yeah.
kind of, that also helped.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wonderful, Namrata. So it has been really a pleasure and to talk to you, and it's been a really inspirational journey. I believe whatever you have shared with us, it is truly going to really inspire and motivate a lot of youngsters. And
I hope so.
wishing you the really best, and wishing my viewers the best. And you may reach out to Namrata on the social media channels, the Srinagar Girl. She's very much available there.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
Srinagar Girl is my handle. And I would love to see you there, even on YouTube, the same handle. And thank you, Sandeep. I must thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to the big wide world out there. Whoever can benefit in any which way
Yeah.
from whatever we discussed today, I would be very happy. Anyone can reach out to me. I'll be happy to mentor any young boy or girl from the tier 2, tier 3 cities who want any kind of guidance in
Right.
my capacity. Whatever I can do, I would be very happy to do.
Wonderful. And that is what the purpose of the podcast series is, to connect the
Yes.
leaders
I
like
think
you who are really eager to support these young people as well. That will help in the growth and prospects of our country. That's India.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you, Namrata. Have a good day.
Bye. You have a good day too.